Welcome back to Betting B1G. Myself, Austin, and Tim are back at the Lettermen Row headquarters. We are here to discuss Week 5 spreads. So I think Austin's been doing a little bit better than Tim, but Tim, this is your week.
No, it's not. It's my week.
I got burned last week a little bit.
That was a big swing for me in Oregon Stanford. I told you it would pay off if I just stuck with Stanford for one more week.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. I'm out on Oregon for the rest of the year.
We'll be discussing both of those. But first up, we have West Virginia at Texas Tech. West Virginia is a 4-point favorite. We have that Heisman candidate, Will Grier. He looks good thus far. Can West Virginia stay unbeaten?
I think that they will. I've been pretty impressed with West Virginia so far this season. Obviously, it all comes down to this is a big game for them all of a sudden, but it seems like West Virginia and Oklahoma are the two best teams in the Big 12 so far. Texas Tech had a huge win last week that kind of caught me by surprise. I think a lot of people by surprise, and blowing out Oklahoma State. This is an interesting game, a noon game for this top 25 matchup. So I think it's 11 a.m. Texas time. But I like West Virginia here, even though they're a road favorite. I think Texas Tech's defense stepped up last week, but they had some, as most Big 12 teams do, they have some defensive question marks. But I think just West Virginia is going to be, they just have a little bit too much firepower. I think Will Grier and that offense are really rolling right now, and I like the Mountaineers. Yeah,
if this was my own money, I think I would run far, far away from this game.
Yeah.
Because Texas Tech, you said a question mark. I'd say like 4 or 5 question marks about their defense until last week. But I don't know. As you wrote in your analysis of this game, did they find some things out? Did they find a solution? Because Oklahoma State could put up some points too. I don't know. It might just be an aberration.
Yeah.
But I think the things that you mentioned, I'm actually going to go the other way. I think there's going to be some nutty Big 12 stuff happening there early in the day in Texas. So I'm going to take those points with the home dog and roll with the Red Raiders.
Yeah,
Guns up.
I hate betting on Big 12 games because they're so wacky, and it seems like outside of Oklahoma, you really just don't know what you're going to get week in and week out with Big 12 teams.
Yeah.
Everything else is up in the air.
Yeah, and so I totally don't fault anybody for taking. I don't like betting on road favorites.
Yeah.
But that's like a heavy theme for me this week.
But
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game, high-scoring game, as most Big 12 games are.
It will definitely be a showdown. So next up, we have Michigan at Northwestern. Michigan is a 14.5-point favorite. Northwestern had a disappointing start to this season. Can the home crowd propel this upset?
This is a weird one for me, Tim, because I still believe that Michigan has a lot to prove, that I'm not completely sold on Shea Patterson, and we're at this point of the year where people get a little carried away with Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines.
Yeah.
We've seen it multiple times. They start to beat up on the teams in the lower half of the Big Ten. This is also the kind of time of the season where Pat Fitzgerald finally gets some things generally going, and playing at home, maybe that crowd will be fired up. I tend to doubt it. I just think the talent disparity between Michigan and Northwestern, especially with Northwestern losing one of the best players on their roster right before this game, I think that's not what you want to be having. That's a big spread. But I think I'm going to take the Wolverines and lay those points.
Yeah, I am too. I'm taking Michigan. And you mentioned this is a part of the year where Michigan kind of beats up on the middle of the road Big Ten teams. Well, that's kind of what Northwestern is.
Right.
Right. So I think defense travels, and Michigan does have one of the best defenses in the country. I just don't know how Northwestern scores enough points. And I just think Michigan, this is the type of team that they just kind of wear you down. And it doesn't necessarily, it's a style that doesn't work against, it hasn't worked yet against some of the big boys. Notre Dame, obviously, earlier this season, and then they've had problems in years past with Ohio State, Michigan State. Northwestern is not that team. So despite going on the road, I do think Michigan is starting to find a little bit of rhythm offensively. I still don't like their lack of creativity and all that stuff, but this is a kind of game where I think they can just hold Northwestern to 10, 14 points, and 35 is enough to kind of cover the spread there.
Right.
So I like the Wolverines.
Agreed.
Another road favorite. Next up, we have Stanford at Notre Dame. This is going to be a big one this week. Notre Dame is a 5.5-point favorite, one of the 2 top 10 matchups this weekend, and it seems like a bit of a toss-up here. Do you have a right answer with
How
this
about
game?
those Cardinal for me, Tim? Just working some magic.
Yeah, that was.
I think I got what I wanted, which was 1 week of a fluke result with Stanford where I actually picked them, because normally that goes against me. I never have faith in them. So now that I got that, I'm done. I'm going back with the Irish.
Okay.
I don't know why, because I don't think either of these teams are as good as their rankings suggest. And I'm just going to take the home team and lay the points.
Yeah, I don't have much of a read on this game either. I don't know what to make of either of these teams. Like, Notre Dame came out, started the season off, beat Michigan, but didn't really play all that well, and then they played 2 poor games in the weeks that followed, and still won. They made a quarterback switch last week. I think that kind of, gave them some energy a little bit. I don't think that that's really who Notre Dame is, though. And Stanford, I bet against them twice this year already and lost. I think I'm going to run as far away from this game as possible. But if I had to make a pick, I actually do like Stanford getting points here. I do think this is going to be just like a weird, ugly, low-scoring football game that just features 2 teams that I really just, for whatever reason, I just can't really get a read on yet this season, even though everybody's played 4 games.
Right.
But I'm going to take Stanford and the points on the road.
Role reversal.
Yeah, right.
All right, up next we have BYU at Washington. Washington is a 17-point favorite in this game. 17 points seems high for confident BYU. They just beat Wisconsin on the road 2 weeks ago. Can the Cougars snag another road upset?
Yeah, I didn't anticipate this being a game we were going to pick this week, but it is a
Here we are.
2 top 20 teams playing, right? I don't think BYU is going to win this game, but I'm going to pick Washington to win, but I'm going to pick BYU to cover. Washington's not typically a team that blows teams out. BYU is 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 road games. So I like taking 17 points here. I don't think that this game is really ever in doubt or anything like that. I just like BYU to cover.
This is almost like my Lee Corso pick this week.
Yeah.
I'm a Wyoming graduate. There's no way that you would ever get me to put money on BYU. It's not happening. Yeah. So I don't like laying this amount of points with Washington, but I'm going to take a sip of my land grant and I'm going to take Washington.
There you go. There you go.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Oregon at Cal. Oregon is a 3-point favorite. Ducks looking to bounce back after crashing and burning last week at Stanford. Against Stanford. Sorry about that. Cal hoping to stay unbeaten. Is it gonna happen?
I hope so. I uttered some not so nice things at my television last Saturday when Oregon collapsed, up 24-7 there late in that game, and they not only still had a touchdown lead late. All they had to do was take a knee 3 times, and the game would have been over. They didn't. They fumbled. Stanford scores, goes to overtime, wins the game. Tim loses money. So I'm betting on Cal. Like I'm done with Oregon. You get a one time. I don't advise anybody to follow this strategy for this game. I'm betting kind of. It's coming from the heart right there. So I'm taking Cal.
For the rest of the game, Oregon looked so good, like the team that you should have been betting on, and so that's they convinced me. They deserve to win that game. They deserve to beat Stanford handily in some places. You mentioned just the end of the game. They had that fumble return, the game changer that allowed some of that momentum to swing earlier. I don't think those things are going to happen again. I definitely don't believe much in Cal. I think Justin Wilcox is a good coach, but they're not at this level yet. So I'm going to roll with the Ducks.
Yeah, if I didn't have a vendetta against Oregon, I probably would bet on Oregon, to be honest. But I can't bring myself to that level after it's still fresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough.
It's a too soon type thing.
And the Bears are coming off an early bye week too. Do you think that helps them, hurts them?
Yeah, I mean it could, but Oregon is the better football team, I think.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Right, but I'm still picking Cal. I think that certainly helps.
You're not going to talk Tim off of
Yeah. I think having an extra week of preparation obviously can help anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, will it be the determining factor in who wins this game? I don't think that really is a huge thing.
All right, the most important game. We have the top 10 showdown this week. We have Ohio State at Happy Valley. OSU is a 4-point favorite. They are a road favorite. We haven't talked about that at all today, but it's a whiteout. It's a night game. How does that affect Ohio State?
Yeah, I would feel a lot like I wrote this in the column that goes along with this. I think I feel a little bit more comfortable if like I were betting on the over of this game as opposed to like against the spread. Because I do think that there are going to be a lot of points scored on both sides. The over/under I believe is 70 or 70.5 right now. The spread is Ohio State -4. So I am gonna take the road favorite again in this game. I do think it's going to be high scoring, and we've seen that crowd at Happy Valley is bonkers. Like crazy things just happen there.
Yeah.
The last 2 times Ohio State has played there, it's been an insanely close game. You think back to 14 in double overtime, and then 16 you had the blocked field goal return for a touchdown that kind of swung the game. So that's the kind of play that happens in this type of game. But I just think overall I feel a little bit more confident in Ohio State's defense to get some stops than I do Penn State's defense. Now, Ohio State's not going to shut down Penn State by any means. I don't think. I still think Penn State's going to score. But I do think Ohio State has a little bit of a better defensive presence right now than Penn State. They're good at making adjustments in game. We've seen that over the years. So I do think at the end of the day, Ohio State will get just enough stops to cover this 4-point spread.
Yeah, you talk about the crazy stuff that's happened in Happy Valley and some of these whiteouts. Even just since Urban has been at Ohio State, you've got the ridiculous Braxton Miller touchdown run. You had Ryan Shazier pick 6. You had Jake Stoneburner cruising, I think it was 80 yards untouched down the middle of the field. You had Joey Bosa with a walk-off sack. You had the shenanigans at the special teams in 2016. I mean, it's been a wild series, but those first 2 that I mentioned, Ohio State was unfazed by that environment. And I think for the most part they did everything that they could have done to win that game 2 years ago, except for the wild breakdowns on special teams, which would almost never happen again. Isaiah Prince struggles notwithstanding. So this one, for me, I don't see Beaver Stadium as being some sort of house of horrors for Ohio State to go play, and I think that they have the supremely talented team. When it comes down to the defensive lapses that we've seen so far this year, I think I'd go back and look just at what TCU did, and that offense has a lot of similarities to what Trace McSorley and the Nittany Lions will do. And Ohio State scored twice on defense in that game. McSorley, for all the great things he does, he's also prone to costly turnovers and some bad decisions, and relying sometimes too much on his wide receivers to help bail him out. I think Ohio State's skill players are better. I think Dwayne Haskins is the better quarterback than Trace McSorley. I absolutely think that Urban Meyer is the better coach in this game. To me, I'll gladly lay those points, even on the road.
Yeah, and that when I think about this game and analyze it, and this isn't like supposed to discredit Penn State, but it's just you go position group by position group, and where does Penn State have an advantage? I think at their best positions, it's a push at best with Ohio State. Whereas even a year ago, like they had an advantage at tight end, at tailback, and even you can make an argument at quarterback and some other positions defensively maybe. They don't have that this year. Trace McSorley is the best player on Penn State's team, but Dwayne Haskins is just as good, if not better. You look at Penn State from a wide receiver perspective. They lost a guy like Deshaun Hamilton, who was an Ohio State killer over the last couple of years. And Ohio State's got depth at receiver. Miles Sanders has stepped in adequately for Saquon Barkley, but J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber are just a little bit better as a tandem. So I just worry about like the overall talent advantage that Ohio State has. I think Penn State is well on the way to becoming the threat to Ohio State in the Big Ten. This was expected to be their kind of like step back year after that massive talent loss, but the way that they're recruiting, I think they're stockpiling some talent, and they will be very good going forward. I still think they're going to finish this year very good, but at the end of the day, I just think Ohio State has too much, and they will end up covering the spread and winning this game on the road.
It's the 2 best teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah. For sure.
All right, it sounds like we have a lot of great football ahead this weekend. From the 3 of us, we hope you have a very lucky weekend, and go Bucks. Bye, guys. Thank you.